The warning, the command chamber aboard the Creek's flagship Eternal Conquest hummed with quiet efficiency. Commander Zethor stood before the massive viewport, his forearms crossed behind his chidness. Back, his species had ruled 17 star systems for 3 millennia, and not once had they encountered resistance. They could not crush within solar cycle. Zethor was a mountain of muscle and armor. His exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian, and his compound eyes reflected the light of distant stars and thousands of tiny fragments. He had earned his position through conquest, not politics. 63 battles, 63 victories. His record was perfect. Behind him, his second-in-command, Subcommander Richtel, approached with careful steps. The younger officer knew better than to interrupt the commander's contemplation. Without good reason, Commander, the deep space reconnaissance report has arrived, Richtel said, his voice carrying the clicking undertones of their language. Zethor turned slowly. The new species. Yes, Commander, the beings who call themselves humans. The survey is complete. A holographic display materialized between them, showing a blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. Data streams flowed alongside the image, detailing atmospheric composition, gravitational measurements, and population estimates. They call their world Earth. Richtel continued, a single planet, no significant colonies, yet beyond their own star system. Primitive, faster than light capability. Barely 5 generations old. Military forces divided among multiple nations. No unified government. Jor studied the data with interest. Population 8 billion individuals. Commander, all concentrated on the home world and a few orbital stations. Weapons capabilities, nuclear fission and fusion devices, chemical propellants, kinetic weapons. Nothing that could threaten a Creek's battle cruiser. Richtel paused. They appear vulnerable. Commander, ripe for absorption into the Empire. Zethor was about to respond when another figure entered the chamber. This one was hunched and ancient, draped in robes that seemed to contain more years than fabric. It was Keeper Valmus, one of the archivists who maintained the Empire's historical records. Commander Xthor, the Old One wheezed, I have come with urgent information. Jor felt a ripple of annoyance. The archivists rarely left their library vaults. Speak quickly, Keeper. I have a campaign to plan. Valmus approached the holographic display, his ancient eyes studying the image of Earth, this world, these humans. I have found references in the ancient texts, records from the old explorers, those who traveled beyond our current borders thousands of years ago. The old explorers encountered humans. Richtel asked with surprise. No, Valmus said slowly, but they encountered something similar, a species that exhibited certain characteristics. The records warned against engaging them. Zethor's mandibles clicked with impatience. What characteristics? The old archivist pulled up another display, overlaying it with the human data. Ancient texts scrolled past in the old language. The old explorers called them the persistent ones. They noted that these beings fought beyond reason. They recorded instances where individuals continued combat even after sustaining mortal injuries. They documented a psychological trait the explorers termed endurance madness. Every species fights when cornered. Jor said dismissively. Not like this, Commander. Valmus's voice grew more intense. The records describe Warriors who lost limbs but continued. Attacking populations who chose mass. Death over submission, a cultural obsession with concepts they called honor and sacrifice. The old explorers left them alone. Commander, they deemed the cost of conquest too high. Thor felt his irritation grow. The old explorers grew soft in their final centuries. That is why their civilization fell and ours rose. I will not be frightened by ancient warnings about species that may not even exist anymore. Commander, please. VMAS pleaded. The records specifically state that engaging the persistent ones would lead to losses that no victory could justify. They warned that these beings form bonds with each other that transcend survival instinct. They warned that hurting one would bring the wrath of many. They warned enough. Jor's voice echoed through the chamber. I have heard your warning, Keeper. It is noted and dismissed. The humans are primitives, playing with technology they barely understand. We will take what we wish from them, and they will learn to serve the Empire like all the others. VMAS bowed his head in resignation. As you command, Commander. I have fulfilled my duty by bringing you this information. What you do with it is your burden to bear. The old archivist shuffled out of the chamber, leaving Thor and Richtel alone once more. Shall I disregard the Keeper's warnings, Commander? Richtel asked. You shall prepare the fleet. We will conduct a demonstration of power. There is a human outpost in the border region, a mining colony called Epsilon 7, small, isolated, perfect for our purposes. Thor's compound eyes gleamed. We will show them the might of the Creeks Empire. We will give them a chance to surrender peacefully. And when they do, the rest of their species will understand their place in the galaxy. And if they do not surrender, Commander. Jor turned back to the viewport, watching as 3 more battle cruisers moved into formation alongside his flagship. Then we will teach them the same lesson we have taught 63 other species. Resistance is futile. Submission is inevitable. The Empire always wins. The fleet began its journey toward human space. The warnings of ancient archivists faded into the background, dismissed as the fearful whispers of a bygone age. Commander Thor had never lost a battle. He had never retreated. He had never failed. He did not believe that a species of soft, short-lived primitives would be the first to change that record. In the days that followed, as the Creek's fleet crossed the void between stars, Volmaz sat alone in his archives. He read again the ancient warnings, his old eyes tracing words written millennia ago, and he wondered if Commander Thor would live long enough to understand why those warnings had been written at all. The reckoning, Epsilon 7, was not an impressive sight. The mining colony clung to a barren moon, a collection of pressurized domes and processing facilities that extracted rare minerals from the lifeless rock. 3,000 humans called it home, miners, engineers, a few families who had followed opportunity to the edge of explored space. When the Creek's fleet emerged from faster than light travel above the colony, the residents had no chance to flee. 4 massive battle cruisers blocked every escape route, their weapon systems powered and ready. Commander Thor opened a communication channel to the colony's administration center. A human face appeared on his display, a woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She wore the uniform of a colonial administrator. Unknown vessels, she said, her voice steady despite the obvious fear in her eyes. This is Administrator Chin of Epsilon 7. Please state your intentions. I am Commander Zethor of the Creeks Empire, he replied, allowing his translator to convert his words into the human language. Your colony is now property of the Empire. You will surrender all weapons and submit to our authority. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Administrator Chen and LT Unk and GTS expression hardened. This colony is under the protection of the United Earth Government. We are not your property. We will not surrender. Jor felt a flicker of surprise. He had expected immediate capitulation. You have 3,000 civilians and no military vessels. I have 4 battle cruisers and 10,000 soldiers. Your choice is surrender or annihilation. Then I suppose you'll have to annihilate us, Chin said quietly. Because we will not bow to invaders. Not today, not ever. The communication ended. Zelthor stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to Rix. Deploy ground forces, non-lethal suppression only. I want prisoners, not corpses. We will break their resistance and use them as an example. The landing craft descended like a swarm of metal insects. Creek soldiers poured out, expecting to find frightened civilians huddled in their homes. Instead, they found something entirely different. The humans had armed themselves with whatever they could find. Mining tools became weapons, industrial equipment became barricades. The 3,000 colonists had transformed their home into a fortress in less than an hour. The first battle happened at the main processing facility. A squad of 20 Creek soldiers advanced through the entrance, confident in their superior armor and weapons. They encountered 12 human miners waiting behind makeshift cover. The firefight lasted 3 minutes. When it ended, 8 Creek soldiers were down and only 3 humans remained standing. But as the surviving Creek soldiers moved to secure the area, something happened that would haunt Commander Zethor for the rest of his life. One of the fallen humans, a man who had been shot through the chest and shoulder, pushed himself up from the ground. Blood poured from his wounds. His breathing was ragged and wet. By every medical standard, he should have been unconscious or dead. Instead, he picked up his mining laser with shaking hands and fired. The beam caught a Creek soldier in the head, dropping him instantly. Then the human fell forward, weapon still clutched in his dying grip. The report reached Zethor within minutes. He dismissed it as an anomaly. Then more reports came in. A human woman with a shattered leg continued to operate a heavy loader, crushing 2 Creek soldiers before she passed out from blood loss. A teenage boy, barely old enough for military service, detonated an improvised explosive rather than let a squad capture his family's dome. By the 4th hour, Zethor had lost 300 soldiers. The humans had lost more than 800, but the remaining humans showed no sign of surrendering. Commander Rickstall said, his voice strained. Our soldiers are reporting psychological trauma. They say that humans keep fighting even after mortal wounds. They say it is unnatural, impossible. Zethor watched the tactical display, seeing his forces bogged down across the entire colony. Increase the intensity of our assault. Lethal forces now authorized. We will end this quickly. But the humans did not break. When cornered, they fought harder. When wounded, they fought longer. Administrator Chin herself led a group of civilians in a desperate defense of the colony's medical center, using furniture and equipment to hold off Creek soldiers for 2 full hours before reinforcements arrived. On the 6th hour, Zethor made a decision he had never made before in his military career. He ordered a retreat. The Creek's forces withdrew to their landing craft under covering fire, leaving behind 400 dead soldiers. The humans had lost nearly 2,000, but Epsilon 7 remained in human hands. As the fleet pulled away from the moon, Zethor stood at his viewport, watching the colony's lights grow distant. His perfect record was broken. His invincible reputation was shattered. Commander, Rixtel said quietly. "What are your orders?" Zethor was silent for a long time, then he spoke, his voice heavy with something that might have been respect or might have been fear. "Send a message to the Empire. Mark human space as forbidden territory. All vessels are to avoid contact. Commander, the Council will demand an explanation. Tell them the truth." Zor turned from the viewport. "Tell them we were warned. Tell them the old explorers were right. Tell them that humans are not a species to be conquered. They are a species to be avoided." "But Commander, with enough forces you do not understand," Zelthor interrupted. "We killed 2,000 of them today, and they did not surrender. They did not flee, even while bleeding, even while dying. They kept coming. What happens when we face not 3,000 but 3,000,000, 3,000,000,000? Rixtel had no answer. In the weeks that followed, the story of Epsilon 7 spread across the galaxy. The Creek's empire, which had never retreated, had been turned away by primitives armed with mining tools. Other species took note. Some laughed, some grew curious, and some, like the ancient Archavists, simply nodded and said they had tried to warn everyone. On Earth, Administrator Chin received a medal for her defense of Epsilon 7 when asked how her people had survived against impossible odds. She gave a simple answer that would become humanity's motto among the stars. "We kept fighting," she said, "because that is what humans do. We do not give up. We do not surrender. Even while bleeding, even while dying, we keep coming, and we always will." The galaxy had been warned. Now the galaxy knew the truth. End of story.